Okay, Thursday, November 30th, 2023. I'll call the meeting to order at 4 o'clock. Roll call, trustee McGregor,
Here.
trustee Grundon appears by video.
Hi,
Hi, we have trustee Zerflu here as also, and village president Mansell and Diane, our treasurer. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda and approve the previous committee meetings from November 2nd, 2023.
second.
Al
Second.
first. McGregor first,
Oh, I thought
Grundon second.
Oh, I thought you said that you'll make a motion, so
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, I'll do the motion.
Okay.
And Tira, you're second?
yes.
Okay. All approved, say aye.
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 I,
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing no nay, they both pass. Public comments on the agenda. Seeing nobody here, nobody else on video. None at this time. Chairman comments, none at this time. Discussion and motion to approve the monthly bills, journal entries, and previous month financial report.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Grundon, second by McGregor, any discussion?
No, sir, and I'm sorry I was so rude.
I guess I have just a little discussion on that. I don't know if you were able to look at all the entries that Diane had sent out from the previous month. But again, we're on a very tight budget and I don't know how the numbers are gonna look at we have one more month. Diane, do you have any comments on that? Are we in the red again, kind of?
Yes, we are, and we got our final shared revenue payment already, and so that's already included here. So I don't see any huge revenues coming in this last month, so, yeah.
So we're gonna have to make sure we keep an eye on our spending in the month of December. I don't foresee anything. I think, I know Public Works, we're good on the salt. You never know, prediction on snow for overtime or anything else, but we're gonna have to be careful on spending. Anybody else have any comments or discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a vote, to approve the monthly bills, journal entries, and previous month financial report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Anybody opposed? Nay. Hearing no nay, that will pass. Number 8 is just a discussion on the upcoming 2024 operating budget. I know that we're having our meeting December 5th to finalize everything. Again, I know it's gonna be a tight budget, so I think we need to keep that in mind. I just personally, I don't like the idea of borrowing, but I know it was either borrow or come up with a referendum. Put on another employee. So I guess, we can have more discussion on December 5th. Anybody else have any discussion on that, the upcoming budget for 2024? Okay, hearing none, we will go to number 9. Discussion and possible motion on a approval of 3% increase for all staff. I think
I'll make that motion.
motion by Grundon, second
I'll second that.
by McGregor. Discussion. I guess my discussion is, we talked about this in the committee of the whole. I think it's appropriate. I think that, cost of living, I think we all discussed it. I just wanted to make sure that it was on there, so you can bring it to the December 5th meeting. And I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that for all employees.
I have I guess a question or a comment about the 3%. I know that. I don't know if we looked at the cost of living, I mean, myself included and everyone at my church is getting a 3.2% because that was the cost of living according to the IRS for next year. And I mean, what's another 0.2%, but I think that, I mean, moving forward, as if there's ever a time, and I know going into this year, it was kind of a fluke. It was like an 8.5% or almost 9% increase, and nobody can anticipate that. But if there's ever a time when we can't meet the cost of living increase, if it's a normal approximately 3% increase, then we have serious problems because we have staff. And I think that anytime you don't get a pay raise that matches, then some could see it as a pay cut if it doesn't match. And again, there's always fluke years, but this is a normal year, and I guess 3% is, I would advocate for 3.2 since that's the exact number, but maybe we should have that cost of living increase in front of us when we discuss that. And at any point, we can't feel like we can't afford that, and perhaps we have too many staff to support. If that's the feeling of it, so that's just my comment about that.
And I agree with you. I mean, when there's a point, then, you know, and that's kind of where I've been on the budget by bringing another person aboard. If things get too tight to be able to even do a cost of living increase, then we really need to take a look at that because, you know, bringing another employee on next year, we might be set at, you know, rough numbers at 130, but our benefits for that person also, we have to look at health increase, dental, raise increase for them next year too. So there's always a cost. I wouldn't be opposed to doing the 3.2, but I know that Diane's worked really hard on getting these numbers together for the budget. And even by doing that, and as tight as the budget is, and being in the red the last 2 months, I mean, it doesn't seem like much, but everything adds up. I mean, I don't think I would run my own household like the way we're running some of the things here because we're in the red. I mean, if we were at our household and we were in the red month after month, I mean, what would we do? First go to a friend and ask him for money to make our bills? I mean, I agree. I'm totally fine with going to the 3.2%, but I think again, like Diane's put a lot of effort into this budget. And we're already at the kind of the deadline of doing everything. I think everything has to actually be to the county, if not already soon, because the tax bills will be coming out, I think by December 12th or 15th. Am I
By the
right?
15th.
By the 15th.
Yeah, but it'll be before then, yep.
So, but with that, any other discussion?
We got to be a little careful about, we're not actually running in the red just on a monthly, but the money's there, like we still have money in December, right? We just have to,
Yeah, because of the TIF and the large grant we got, that's what's holding us over. Once those are gone, we would be in the red. Yes. That's sustaining us right now.
because of what?
Because of the TIF money that we
Okay,
have,
okay,
the
okay.
large grant, yep.
The cash flow.
Okay, any other discussion?
So do we need to take any measures going into December to address that?
If
In
I-
the future.
Yeah, and yeah, we're now, we're now in December or tomorrow, and basically what I'm hearing Diane saying is the operating budget for 2023 is in a negative. I hear that right, Diane? So, and so therefore, I was thinking, I wrote a note to myself, put an email out to the rest of the department heads and see to try to hold their spending, or, you know, don't put any more in together until just hold their spending for the rest of the year, because if we're running the operating budget negatively, that means that's how you manage your departments, manage your budget, so. We should have been on this earlier, but we'll do the best we can for the rest of the month.
Okay. So yeah, but now getting back to the motion, any other discussion on the 3% increase for staff? Okay, with that, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Hearing no nay, that will pass. The next discussion is, discussion and possible motion to approve the 2% adjustment for full-time police officers.
I'll make that
Uh,
motion.
Motion by Grundon,
I'll second that.
second by McGregor. I had brought this discussion. Any discussion from either one of you first?
I think just so that it's clear, the last time we had a meeting, it was 5% for the police officers. So we're just breaking it out into the cost of living, wage increase for all staff, and then this is an additional 2% for the police officers, kind of still making up that 5% for the police officers. So but we're just making it into two motions, just so that it's.
I understand that.
You understand that, Tiara?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, my discussion is that we did a study here back when Boz was the administrator. And at that time, there was talk, and I wasn't here at that point in time, I guess it was 2020. There was some wage adjustment for some employees. And then the following year, my understanding is to bring everybody up to the study, some employees were given 3% and some were given 4% to make up the difference. I did bring anything, I think I did share this with you before, Tiara. It was a study done for 2022. Of course, it's a couple years old. It's a wage and analysis by population of 1,500 people to 3,500 people in the state of Wisconsin. We have anywhere from Lake Delton being the highest paid department in the area. Of course, Lake Delton is Wisconsin Dells area with a lot of activity during the summer and winter, and they're getting around 37, 31 in 2022. Down to Stratford, which is outside of Marshfield, outside of Wood County into, I think it's Clark or Marathon County. Marathon, and they are getting $19.23. That was way back in 2022. Hopefully that's changed since then. Our average officer right now, our rolled officer is making $29.59 an hour. That's not below the lowest Stratford. It's not above Lake Delton. It falls in the range of, you can see on this thing here between Nacousas around $30 an hour, and Markesan, which is down by Green Lake, is at 29 an hour. So we're actually making more than what Markesan officers are making at this time, unless they're having quite a big increase in the last 2 years. So I don't know if I don't think that we're underpaying our officers. So, I mean, I know Chief Drew had put something together. I don't know if Pittsville was on there, but I know that Pittsville is it's probably around the $20 an hour pay scale. I don't want us to compare to Pittsville, but Pittsville's a city, we're a village. And they have, I believe, 2 full-time officers and some part-time officers that work for their department. I'm not against the wage adjustment. I don't know if it should be 2%. Maybe it should be, a 30-cent difference, and that would bring them up to $29.89, almost $30 an hour. It actually keeps them up under Nacusa a little bit, but Nacusa, of course, is a 24-hour department with bars, taverns, and a mill that's operating. So I guess my opinion would, to do some type of adjustment, but maybe a 30-cent an hour adjustment.
Could you remind me of what the current wages are for this year?
$29.59.
$29.59 an hour for full-time police officer.
Uh,
Oh, it's on the-
Sorry, I put it on the bottom.
oh,
And I
okay.
wrote it on the top.
So like I said, I wouldn't be against some type of adjustment. I don't know if it has to be a percentage. I think it can be like 30 cents or 40 cents an hour. And that would bring them up to pretty darn close to what, Nakusa is making. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, my battery's dying and I'm having a problem with electricity. I don't agree. I think when we're looking at comparisons that again are 2 years old, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna turn my camera off because I have to find a plug. So 1 second, but I'll still leave my audio on. I think when we're looking at comparisons that are 2 years old, that have gone up since then, I think that we have to address it. And at the end of the day, adjustments have been made in other departments to bring us closer to that study. I think it's pretty important that we work on the police department also, since that's the department that there's
That's what-
such a late.
Well, you know, are you there? She lost. Okay, well, we lost her for a minute. I guess I disagree with that is,
That appropriately.
oh, okay, are you still there, Tiara?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. On that is in 2021, there was appropriate adjustment for all employees. They were given a 4%, where some other employees were only given a 3%. To come up with the adjustment for the study that was done. Did you get that email from Betsy?
I don't know if I did. I mean,
Yeah,
I
she's-
I think I did read it. Yes. So, but I did not read that the police department was included in that, were they?
Yes, they were given a 4%, while some other employees were only given a 3%.
So for that tier, that was when we did 4% for hourly employees and then 3% for the salaried that year.
So it wasn't necessarily. So they were given the same thing that everybody else was given.
Right, we were trying to bring them all up to what the study brought up. I mean, that was all employees.
So, but the problem is we're competing in the region in a labor market that if we would go Pittsville's routes, as we all know, though, I mean, that what Pittsville is paying is
And I think they have a
Despicable.
fine police department and fine officers.
well, but then they got lucky. I think, I mean, they got lucky if that's the case, because that's typically not the case in those circumstances when you're not going to pay somebody for the skill, the training. They typically are not going to take a job at such a drastic hit.
I think that
So,
we're
I mean,
already,
we've addressed it with the departments across the board. The one that has not been fully addressed and the one that we're continually, like right now, we don't have part-time officers that really are able to work that much. You know, that's changed from the way it used to be. It used to be we had, you know, part-timers that worked and it worked well. That's changed. You know, and we can't necessarily, we're not going to be able to dollar for dollar compete with Nakusa, but we've at least got to show the regard and value to our officers to not ask them to be the department that does it out of a charitable act. Because none of the other departments are
paying-
functioning that way.
I don't think paying them $29.59 an hour is being a charitable act. I think that's paying them a fair,
Comparative to what it takes, what they would get working anywhere else. That's what I mean.
well, if they worked in Stratford or Pittsville, they'd be getting a lot less, or they would work probably on any of these, Osseo, Park Falls, they're all getting paid less. You know, like I said, I'm not. Even Juneau County is getting paid less than what our officers are getting. I'm not
And
against
that's
giving,
not the labor market that we're recruiting from. I mean, we really literally are having a great deal of difficulty with recruiting. So do we want a police department? Because if we can't recruit, if our people are unhappy and gonna move somewhere else, it's actually fiscally would be much more difficult, much more costly to start to address turnover.
Are our officers leaving? Or they're.
I don't know that they are at this time. I know that they've been actively recruited.
I think all of them have been, because that's just the way law enforcement is at this point in time. So I don't think that by throwing money at it is the way to do it. I think that, for one, if we look at recruiting opportunities, we can do that by showing some of the benefits that we have here in the village of Port Edwards and by being in our community. I don't think by just throwing numbers, if people are coming here because of the wage, for one, I'm not sure if that's, wages plays a part in everything, but if you're just coming to our community solely for wage, then I don't know how invested they are in our community or want to be a part of that community. Like I said, I don't have a problem adjusting by maybe 30 cents, 40 cents an hour and bringing them up. And then they also get the 3% on top of that. But the percentage of 5% total, again, I recognize that their job is dangerous. I know their job is dangerous. I was a police officer for 32 years. I know the dangers that come with it. I know times have changed. I realize that. But I don't think that by just throwing money at employees to keep them there is something that we should do. I mean, we could have any employees. Diane could come tomorrow and say, if we don't give you this much money, I'm leaving. Diane's a very intimate department of this village by running our books. Any one of our employees could come and say this. So I just don't buy that. Like I said, I agree with giving them something, but we did it in a wage adjustment in 2021 for all village employees of 4% to bring them up to the study. If it's with the study, okay, but now we've already done that, and I'd say 30 or 40 cents an hour, and then they get the 3% on top of that.
Okay, if I can ask Tiara, those numbers that Chief Drew gave us, what was the those numbers based of? I don't have those here in front of me. I mean, I know you don't either, but what was the 18.5% we were looking at?
I don't remember. I would suggest, unless anybody has any other questions, we call the vote.
Just for a point of reference, for like a 40% or a 40-cent increase is 1.35%. So just so that, I mean, we're talking about 40 cents is 1 point, just so that you have.
So
Yeah,
what,
thank you.
and so what, the 3%, you're saying in 2023, they're at 29.59, the 3% brings them to 30.48, was that the net where the 3%? I think you have that right.
Yeah. It'd actually be almost as
And the 5% would be like
39 something. They would be
$30.90.
39?
$30.90.
so $32 almost as much as somebody in Johnson Creek is making where they have them all.
$1.47. 48. Oops, 49. 3107.
48 plus 40 is 89.
Well, to be honest, I would like to take the first motion back and make the motion that we give them a 40-cent increase instead of the 2%. And then they get the 3% on that.
So you'd have to amend the motion?
Someone's gonna
You'd
make
have to amend the motion.
I'd like to amend the motion that we give them a 40-cent increase
And what was that percent represented?
It'd be about a 1.2 or 3.
1.3%, yeah, 1.35.
Either way, what we're doing is, we're not talking about a lot of money here.
Well, we are when we're putting another officer on and when we're
But that's,
having a tight budget.
when you look at the money spent historically and the money given back to the village, Drew does not typically run any overtime. Getting the right employees, paying them fairly, that is I look at that as being, that's a movement towards fiscal responsibility, saving from the turnover. If we don't start regarding them and ignore the fact that they're actively pursued, but we
Well-
don't expect that from any other departments in the village. We're not, their pay range is comparable to our region. So I don't understand why we're taking pause with the police department when we haven't taken pause in other departments
Well, I
and
think,
having them competitive within the region, within the labor market that we're working with.
well, if you see the study, you can see that we're being fair to our officers, and I'm not saying don't give them an increase. But I think we have to be fair to other employees too. They can be actively recruited to the city of Wisconsin Rapids, to Grand Rapids, or any other place. They can be also actively recruited. I mean, we have
They
water.
could be, except for that those wages are more comparable.
I don't,
So
I disagree with you, Tara. They're not.
They're closer in comparison than the police department is with Rapids and Wood County.
I don't think we can compare that. We don't have the business. We don't have the growth.
I
If we
know,
had-
I
we had-
understand exactly what you're saying, and that's the point that makes it confusing. Why do we make that? Why are we in that wage in other departments? Because our other departments are not getting paid that low. And the reality, I mean, we have a labor, I mean, the labor of law enforcement, there's issues and things continue to evolve and be more challenging. The division in our country with law enforcement, the enrollment, and it's all declined. I mean, we
Well, that's
can't
a-
act like that's not happening.
That's across the nation. I mean, I understand that.
Yes,
And I think we're
Yes.
compensating our officers well. And I'm not saying not to compensate them. I'm saying that I would like to amend it to a 40-cent increase and 3% on top of that. They're still actually getting more than the other employees. So it's actually bringing them up.
it would be bringing them up, but the other departments are closer in the region. And I mean, I'm not gonna belabor the point, but I respectfully disagree. And I would ask that we call the vote, and then if the vote doesn't pass, then maybe we could look at coming up with another motion.
Well, did you make a motion to amend the motion?
I did make a motion to amend the motion. I
Okay.
didn't get a second. Anybody
Okay.
second?
That's where I didn't know if I missed that part, I'm sorry. So is there, sorry.
I make amendment to the motion that we do a 40-cent increase plus the already 3% that we made a motion to. Do I get a second? Okay, with no second, I guess that motion dies.
So then you have to call the vote for the first.
And we'll call a vote for the first.
I just didn't want to miss anything.
Okay, any other discussion before I call the motion or vote? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Nay for me. So with 2 ayes, and we'll pass that on to the village board meeting on December 5th for further discussion and see if it passes there. Okay. Number 11, discussion and possible motion on developing a policy concerning village vehicles being taken home by employees. I've spoke, to Dwayne about this. I also spoke to the village president about this. We do not have a policy right now on vehicles going, that I'm aware of, about village vehicles being taken home. I think one needs to be drafted. And the wording in that, I guess, you know, I could get together with, Dwayne, and we could draft some wording in there. I just wanted some discussion on it and some feedback on what other members of the board felt about that. My take is, if you are on call and you're a village employee, I can understand that a vehicle should be taken home because you're on call, and you could, if the sheriff's department would call you, or it would call Public Works and say, we have a water main broke. If somebody needs to get out there, we have water leaking over the highway. I think then we need to get that person there. But I don't think, if you're not on call, I think the vehicle should remain in the village. I know that they should be on village property, not in Rapids, Grand Rapids, Nakusa, or any other place. Betsy?
And in village property, unless let's just say one of our police officers is responding for backup in Nakusa, then obviously if you're using it within your work day, then you can take it off village property. I just don't want it to be like, oh, sorry, you're just over village property, I can't go, I
No,
can't go
no,
help.
no, and I
It's
think
just
that's
a
what even our
clarification.
Public
Yeah.
Works, you know, if they have to help
Right.
Nakusa or Rapids with a water problem or whatnot, if we have the equipment, we wanna be neighborly.
Right,
And,
I just want, just for wording purposes, it's not
Right.
like we're restricting them to not
On
leave the
duty.
village.
yeah, and I think, do you have anything you have, seen different policies?
You gotta be on duty. That's the word. You're on duty, then you're taken anywhere. Or off duty, it's, depends, you leave it in village.
Right, but as far as policies, we should have a policy.
There's several of them out there, different pieces, different communities have different policies. It's always look, if you wanna continue that, we'd look at what other communities have for municipalities. I do know that counties are a little different than municipalities, so that's what I know.
Is the issue is because some of the homes are not in town?
Well, I think that's one of the issues. I mean, if our, you know, our village trucks are in Rapids all the time, I think that taxpayers are concerned, or if we're not here, you know, taxpayers are paying for those vehicles. And they should be in our village during working hours or non-working hours, not parked somewhere else. That's my feeling. I mean, I think, I've gotten a lot of feedback from taxpayers that have talked to me about this. And if a person's on call, I can say, yeah, well, they're on call. That's why the village truck is parked by their home in Rapids, or a cop car or whatnot. But if they're not on call, I'm just gonna say, well, I guess that's one of the perks, another perk for the employee to take home a village vehicle. And then we have to be fair to all village employees and let them all take home a vehicle, because how can you discriminate against one or the other? Just because of, you know, job titles, where some people get to take home cars and some don't. I don't think that's fair, and I think we need to be fair. And especially in this day and age, we have to be fair out to all our employees. Otherwise, that's a perk or a benefit that some employees benefit from and others don't. So that's kind of my feeling and take on it.
Is this something that has to go through PIT? As a,
Probably. It would be a policy creation, so we could take that up.
Yeah, so maybe
if you and Dwayne want, at least wanna bring us a draft so that we know what the foundation of it is.
I think we can do that.
Sure. Whatever.
I think where it's gonna get into splitting hairs is that any one of our employees could be considered on call at any time. That would be, you know, like if we had an officer taking a vehicle home, if something happens in the village that is of an emergent nature, they're gonna be showing up. The same thing with, and if we have a storm, the crew is gonna be showing up. So, and from that angle of on-call, basically anybody that's on the level of you drive a vehicle for your job could be potentially looked at as on-call. So I don't know if that's gonna be, I think either we do or we don't. And keep it
I
simple
tend to agree
because,
with you. Tira, I do agree with you because if we start saying on call, we as employers have to compensate people for being on call. It has to be a monetary amount. This was a discussion a long time ago when we did have on call with the police department. We got compensated, it was minimal, it was 30-40 cents an hour when we were on call, but the sheriff's department could call us up after 1 o'clock in the morning, and then we'd have to respond to a call until the officer on duty the next day would come in at 7 or 8 o'clock, whatever time. So we
Mhm.
did get compensated
well,
for
and,
that.
and it's exactly that kind of circumstance that makes me think of that. Because I remember we had a situation at our house where there was an intoxicated person stuck in the creek. That was in the middle of the night, and I think you might have been the turnout on that.
I definitely was.
So
I recall.
when you think of that, I think we gotta make it much more clear, either we do or we don't.
I agree, and I guess, me and Dwayne can come up with that. I'm to the point of saying all vehicles stay in the village and they have to come and get them for all employees. But I guess we can take a look at some of the different policies. They're different. And discuss it and then bring it to the pit committee. How does that
Okay.
sound?
Sure.
Okay. So that's what we'll do on there. Number 12, any old business? Anybody? Diane, any old business? No, any new business? Anyone with any new business? Hearing none. Correspondence received, nothing that I'm aware of. Dwayne, did we get any correspondence that you're aware of?
No, not that I'm aware of. No. I've only been here today, back to.
Oh, I guess just the one I think that should be mentioned that, resident had questions about the budget.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that was actually pushed on, you had sent me the email on that and
And I think,
trustee Zerflu about, Mr. Terry had concerns.
and I remember you sent an email off to me and to the chief to us to follow up on that chief has.
Yep.
Mr. Terry today.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Agenda
Well,
items.
that
for-
wasn't something the board received as much as a department head. We don't include that in correspondence, do we? Departments?
I didn't know, I guess it was a budget question, so that's why I just mentioned it, and being the finance committee. It was a budgetary question. I think that, Chief Drew responded to it, so. But I just wanted to make it aware that it was a budgetary question. If it belongs in our committee or not, I don't know, does it,
And just mentioning that,
just mentioning that we have received one.
Sorry, I'm just kind of out of the loop a little bit.
There, what happened, the village, president and a few board members received the correspondence from the Terrys, I'll use that term. And what we're indicating that for the correspondence is that this committee is recognizing that they received that information. And then because information came in, not to all members, the village president recommended or requested that either I or the chief respond to it, and that has occurred by the chief. And that's what we're trying to notify in the minutes.
Cool.
good night, Joe.
Right. Okay, agenda items for next meeting. I guess hopefully after December 5th, we'll have a lot of things sorted out and. It won't be much for the next meeting in January. Hopefully,
A lot could happen between now and then.
I don't like that tone. Okay, upon that, it is 20 to 5. Without objection, I will adjourn the meeting. Any objection? We're hearing none. 20 to 5, we will adjourn.